Hi guys, Ray here from City Fan TV, and I'm joined by Bernard Dineen from the Citizen channel. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, mate. Enjoying the sun. I can't see properly, but hey, that's doesn't happen often. We can't complain, can we? I know we do.
The
We
glare
always
of the,
complain. Yeah,
the
we
glare
always,
of the. I
But
was going to
yeah,
say,
I fight the urge to win. I just get on with it. But it's lovely.
I'm going to
It's
get me
like
joke out. I'm going to get me
yeah,
Paul joke out. The glare of the sun off your head
yeah,
is
bouncing off. Yeah,
and it's
that's what I
bouncing
used
off
to
mine
rely
as
on.
well.
I was just going to say at the end of my football career, but I still had a bit of hair then, so I couldn't do it in front of the players that approached if they were running in on me, in goal. But yeah, it would have been a good idea, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Put people off. You either moon or show your bonds. Anyway,
Oh,
I've had that in a game. I've had someone do that in a game, trying to put someone.
You always bring the level down straight away.
Come on, goalkeeper doing that just before someone takes a penalty.
Well, Bruce Grobbler might have done, I think, back in the day, but
It's crazy enough. Right, guys, we're in the international break. Obviously, we're not talking about current football because there ain't none. So what we're going to do in this short video is we're going to look back at the season so far. We're only 4 games in, but we're going to look back at the season so far. We did a video previously looking at the transfer business this summer, so you want to go watch that. That's some good stuff there. Some really good insights from the both of us. Hey, I'm not going to pass it. I'll give all the credit to Bernard, but from the both of us, it was quite good stuff. But we're going to look in this video at the season so far and how the new players have done. Now, it's only 4 games for, competitive
we can
games.
add the Super Cup to it, can't we?
We can have the Super Cup and the Community Shield. So the
6 games, really, yeah. They're all trophies to win.
Yeah, it's decent enough. So let's start off by looking at what we've done. We should have won the Community Shield, but, we give it away in injury time and we lost on penalties. Yeah, that's the way it is. Super Cup, we should have won it in regular time, but we I think we had enough chances, but we ended up winning it on penalties, which I think was great for us. Sevilla, very tough opponents. And in the league, okay, we battered Burnley, but we won't be the only ones who do that. So you can't look at that too much. We beat Newcastle. And at the time, we thought that's business, because Newcastle had just battered Aston Villa and they're a tough team. Subsequently, Newcastle have gone on to lose both their league games. Since, against 10-man Liverpool and getting battered by Brighton. Then we went off and beat Sheffield United 2-1. All right, it was not easy, but we got over the line in the end. And the last game, whatever Marco Silva says and everybody else, to say that dubious offside goal before half-time was a difference. No, it wasn't. We were not at it enough in the first half. Second half, we turned it on. We battered them. And it's a shame we didn't turn it on at the start because we'd have battered them in the first half and the second half, and all these excuses wouldn't be mentioned, and everybody's saying VAR's benefiting City, blah, 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 blah. So that's our season, 6 games in. How are you liking it, Bernard? You got to be happy.
I think you've asked me to get my league ladders out, seeing where these teams are that we beat. And obviously Burnley are 20th, so that's not great, is it? Sheffield United are 17th. Newcastle are 14th. It's not reading very well, this, mate, at the moment. Who's the other guy? Fulham are 13th. So we've beaten 4 of the bottom 7.
No, you're a harsh man. You're a harsh man. You set me up here. No. Okay.
We know Newcastle should really be up there, but at the moment they're not doing it, and you have to do it in football. It doesn't matter what your promise is. It's like Villa, isn't it? You thought that first game, Villa are going to struggle. We thought they'd be up there, and we thought Newcastle. Then all of a sudden, in the space of 2 or 3 games, it's totally turned around.
Yeah. Well, I will say this about Newcastle, regardless of where their position is, they've played City, they've lost to us. They've played Liverpool. Okay, we think they should have done better, but Liverpool's still, I think, going to be our main challenges this season. And they've lost to Brighton, who are a blooming good side. So I think, obviously, we agree that Newcastle are in a slightly false position, but they played good teams. Fulham have played Arsenal and Man City. So, and Brentford. So you wouldn't expect.
If this was 15 games in or something, I was giving you the bottom 7 like that out in the bottom 7. Yeah, it has more meaning. But as you say, when you only play 4 games and you probably have 2 or 3 tough competitors, tough teams to play against. I mean, you've asked me, obviously before the season, we would have been disappointed if we went into this international break dropping any points. Let's be fair with it. Even Newcastle at home, away might have been difficult. At home, it's 4 wins and it's not been fluid. But we never are. We never are at the start of the season, are we? And we've not had Pep. We've not had Pep for 2 games. So, that's pretty amazing. We could have easily dropped a point in these last 2 games with Mr. Lilo, Mr. Action Man there. Lilo sat on his bench for 90, 100 minutes, however long it was. But obviously he was in communication with Pep. And someone told me he was throwing his earpiece out as though he couldn't understand what was going on at some stage. But so you've got that as well, which comes into the equation. So, I think we have to be happy.
It's an interesting point you made in a previous video when you talked about Kyle Walker and what he said before the season started. He decided to stay at City. He's captain for the time being because obviously KDB's out injured. But can you remind everybody what Kyle Walker said and what you think it means to the
team? He's told the team basically, why can't we go out and do what we did back at 18-19 season where we, by Christmas time.
That was 17-18.
17-18 by Christmas time, 18 points, 15, 18. I know it didn't increase that much, but obviously once you're that far ahead, it's going to be difficult to keep up that sort of pace. But he said, why not sort of do that rather than to be chasing all the time, which is what we tend to do, and it always works. But some seasons it's not going to work, is it? And the other team to do it, obviously, was Liverpool when they had the COVID affected season. Of course, they did exactly the same. They took the league by the jugular and won it by Christmas. Really, I mean, it was all over. And Kyle Walker asked the players, once he got all this Bayern Munich thing sorted out, he come back and that was his first thing he wanted to do. So that's a hell of a positive thing to say, and I'm sure the guys have, all right, it's words, but it doesn't matter, does it? If you squad, there's the squads together, you can use, and Diaz has been beating the drum, hasn't he? I've seen little snippets of him beating the drum as well. So, and they have the huddles now, don't they? Which we didn't particularly have a lot of in the past, but all of a sudden we started having little huddles. I'm not overly bothered whether the team has a huddle or not, but it just shows the commitment and what we want to do.
Yeah, it shows that commitment, togetherness. And I think where Walker's talking, there's renewed fire in the bellies. It's easy for someone like Walker, who in 6 seasons at City has won 5 league titles. It's easy for him to drop off. He's at 33. It's easy for him to say.
A lot of pundits have been saying, you look at some of the pundits who've been predicting the top 6, and City have been 5th and 6th in some I've seen. I thought, what planet are you on? They're just assuming that we've been there, we've done it, we're not going to do it again.
We might fall, but we won't fall off a cliff.
Yeah,
I think that's important. All right, let's move on to look at the new signings. Now, some we've seen a fair bit of, some we haven't seen much of, and one we haven't seen any of, except that for that smile from Nunez. So let's start with the guy who's been here the longest, Kovacic. Okay, he joined very early in the window, just over 20 million quid, and he did a pre-season with City, did the friendly games. And he's been ever present, if I'm correct, in the league. What's your assessment of what he's achieved so far? Are you liking what you're seeing?
Well, people are going to compare him to Gundo, aren't they? They're bound to do that but he's himself. Kovacic is Kovacic. And I like his confidence. He doesn't always, sometimes looks around thinking, what do I do next? Because he's sort of bowled along and realised, oh, I'm not following a system here. I'm doing my own thing. What should I be? Who should I be looking for and stuff like this? So sometimes I think his head's down a little bit, bulling the china shop in an effective way. Don't get me wrong, not in a non-effective way. But I think he's just one of those players that he's played all the league games, played the Super Cup, I think, and the Community Shield. Did he played in both of those? Yeah. I'll put my little stats away from my holiday, so I haven't got it in front of me. But you just know he's going to improve. He's going to improve. The only thing with Kovacic is he's not had a very good goal scoring record, has he? I don't expect him to do what Gundo did for us and perhaps win us a league title in the last game of the season when we're losing, to Aston Villa, something like that. But he's got other attributes, and I think of the guys, he's the one we've seen the most of, and he's the guy that he's hit the ground running. He doesn't look as though he needs a big build up to this. He's going to get game. Pep will give him a rest at some stage, of course he will. But with Kovacic and perhaps another, he can do that. He can do perhaps the Rodri role as well that we might be missing of. If Rodri wants his rest, I think Kovacic and Lewis or Stones, they can sort of make up for that.
Yeah, no, I think he's had a good start. I'm really liking what I see.
You couldn't have asked much more. I mean, I could because I'm greedy, but no, I don't think you could. I mean, and a goal or two would have been nice, but we're not going to get that, so I'm not expecting it.
I'm going to focus on accentuate the positive. He's made a couple of mistakes here and there in passing and getting caught on the ball, but I think he's under more pressure because of the way we played than he was at Chelsea. You're going to get caught on the ball more, or you're going to be under pressure to be caught on the ball more.
We like the physicality as well, don't we? We've got quite a physical team at the moment. And he had that with a bit of pace and a bit of vision as well. Yeah,
I'm liking his passing. I'm liking his runs. I'm liking the fact that he can dribble a little bit in midfield as well. I'm not finding much that.
Players are standing off as well. Some, they're not quite sure. Opponents, opponents aren't quite sure sometimes, and he does get that little bit of extra space then when he does go rambling and wandering up a little bit in midfield.
So I'm very happy with what I've seen. Moving on to Guardiol. Now, Guardiol came late in the window, 70-odd million pounds. I think his first start was against Sevilla in the Super Cup, and then he had has he had a couple of starts in the league, or just two starts in the league, I think, and then he was on the bench in the last game, which is fine for me. You can't just turn up and play everything because, hey, Akanji and Ake deserve a little bit of respect because they were good last season. So what do you make of Guardiola so far?
I think you look back at that Newcastle game and the fact that he was mistaken for Diaz. I think that sort of tells us he didn't jump in, he didn't launch himself, and he was sort of 1-on-3. He just thought about it, and that's what we want. He's only a young lad, so I mean, if he's got that intelligence now at his age, imagine what he might be in 4, 5, 6 years' time when he's got all the experience of international wise and playing club football at the highest level, which is what we want him to do and what he's currently doing. So, as I say, apart from that, he's not seen much of him, but I think we've seen enough to know that there's a little bit of quality there, isn't there?
Absolutely. Moving on to Jeremy Doku. Now, another one who came towards the end of the transfer window, 60 million quid, around that sort of number. And he started against Fulham. We battered Fulham, but his contribution, there's a couple of times he lost the ball or give it away. But I think we saw with a couple of runs where he just skinned his man from a standing start. We haven't had that on our wing for a little while since. I'll even go before Raheem Sterling. Leroy Sané was the man who could do something like that. And Doku so far has shown that. What do you make of him so far? I mean, obviously you're at the game on Saturday. What do you think?
It'll be interesting to see what he gives us when we're on the break. I know it doesn't happen often with us because we're the ones with the possession and on the ball, but it'll be interesting, because we didn't really see his pace flat out, did we? Because it was always so compact against Fulham and everything, defenders wise. He was always doing a Grealish and Mahrez where he just had to try and create his own space from a still start, if you like, because he wasn't getting those opportunities, to do that. So we've still got to see, and we've seen it on bits on YouTube, on various things. We've seen his ability at pace to go down that wing, and I think he'll be a total revelation. But for a guy who had to create his own space, I thought he did okay. He rated one of the lower for me against Fulham. He was just a 6 out of 10. But there was no detriment to him, and I think we'll see him on the bench a little bit more perhaps than he might want to be. But I think that's probably the best. I think he will. I don't think he'll settle immediately. I think he'll take time for Pep to build around him, and but it's just nice to have the option, isn't it, for once of someone who can do that.
Yeah, it's a shame he didn't come earlier in the window. I think that would have made a big difference to go on tour with the lads, to bond,
Especially now, because we've got some tough games, as you said, you pointed out before. We've got some tough games coming up end of September, October. So Pep's going to go to his tried and trusted, I think, and Doku will have to wait and bide his time, I think.
I like what I've seen in the bits I've seen. It's one of those. Keep doing the positive stuff we've seen. Get rid of the negative stuff.
Keep his head up. As long as he's happy in training, Pep will be happy with him.
Finally, there's not much to say about Matheus Nunes because all we've seen is his teeth in training. We haven't seen him, obviously, in action. What have you made of him so far? Any good noises?
Yeah, he looks happy. I think he's joining a team that is happy, psychologically, mentally. I think it's he's coming to a team that's just done the treble, and we're up there. We're up, aren't we? As a team, we're up. Any guys who perhaps were a little bit down, we've managed to perhaps move on. That might have brought us down a little bit, and I think he'll love it. He's saying all the right things as you'd expect him to say, but he didn't quite settle down as quick with Wolverhampton as did last season. Yeah. But obviously, Wolverhampton and City are totally different propositions. Of course, he can probably not make mistakes, but he can probably do things here that he wouldn't have been able to do at Wolverhampton Wanderers. So it'll be very, very interesting because there's a lot of love of it for him out there, certainly from Wolves fans before he left. I'm not too sure what he's like now, but there's a lot of love out there, probably because he wanted a few more quid off us. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But I say he looks happy. Yeah. He's training well. The gallery pictures, he's been on the winning team in the training things once or twice. So yeah, we'll have to see. But so far, I don't think he can. He's going to be too miserable about joining this team in the current frame of mind.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, guys. That's what we think about our season so far and the new players that we signed and how they fitted in. Guys, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you can hit that bell icon, you'll be notified as soon as new videos come out. We'll see you around, Blues.